Welcome, welcome, welcome to another episode of Collateral Damage. I am your host, Sean Ebony Coleman, and today we're talking about my favorite topic: money, power, respect, financial empowerment, authenticity, and visibility within the LGBTQIA community. And I have one of my good friends, personal banker, financial guru is what I'm going to call him right now, Barton Jackson.
So good to see you, Sean.
Barton, for those not familiar with you, as I am, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you for having me, Sean. And sure thing. So Barton Jackson, he, him, recovering banker, raging homosexual, and executive director for the National LGBT Chamber of Commerce for New York.
I love that you put raging homosexual before you put your actual job title.
I find that when I'm in rooms full of suits and ties, it's a great way to diffuse the tension.
Yeah, yeah. You just mentioned about transitioning out at TD Bank, right?
Yes.
And coming into non-for-profit work.
Mm-hmm.
I think my first question is, why did you make that change? Why did you make that pivot?
Well, so for those that don't know, the National LGBT Chamber of Commerce New York is the LGBT chamber here in the Empire State, and we strive to provide visibility and opportunity for not just businesses that are owned and operated by LGBTQ plus New Yorkers, but also our nonprofits, engagement with our corporate professionals, and how that all impacts the economy and the marketplace for our households in the state. And I've been a longtime volunteer. I think I was an ambassador for new members of the chamber, and I was
You onboarded DT, so yeah, you
That's
were.
right. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, we've known each other for over a decade now, which is really kind of frightening
Yes.
to think about. But so for me, I was so involved in it, and it became like a second home. You know, of businesses and the people behind them and their stories and the nonprofits and the people behind them like yourself and the incredible work that we do to really contribute back to not just our community, but how that then gets amplified in terms of benefit to the city and the state. So sadly, the last executive director, Kelly Parkin, passed away.
God bless. Yeah.
And I mean, she was, A, just an amazing person.
This is true.
But B, really entrusted some of the key volunteers, myself included, with helping her continue to try to grow the chamber. And so, you know, part of the process of finding a new director, an inquiry was made to me, and I said, you want me to leave my comfortable corporate commercial lending position? I think I'm a great volunteer. I like being behind the scenes.
Right.
But the more I thought about it, the more I thought about what it meant to just fully go in and invest, you know, the career and the skill sets and the connections and the expertise and just make it my full-time commitment.
Right.
And I'm really happy I did it. You know, executive director's a lot of work.
Yeah.
But I think it's the most rewarding work I've ever done.
So explain to us how NGLCC-NY helps LGBTQIA business owners gain opportunities as well as visibility, with visibility being more important.
Sure. So we do all the things that a typical chamber does in terms of providing space and networking and education and resources. But the thing that we're known for is our affiliation with NGLCC, which is the National LGBT Chamber of Commerce. And through that affiliation, we certify businesses that are at least 51% owned and operated by LGBT US persons in New York State. And what that means is if a household, a nonprofit, another small business, a corporation, a government agency, or a higher education institution, if there is a consumer somewhere out there that says, I want to do business with diverse communities in my supply chain, whether that's a good or service,
Right.
Our certification, which is a national certification, allows them to go and identify those that are within the queer community of entrepreneurs. So we've got folks from, you know, real estate and legal services to manufacturing of, you know, magnifying glasses, I mean, any industry, you name it. And what that allows us to do is take what is really a recovering population in New York since the AIDS pandemic in the 80s all the way up until we saw kind of the climax of mortality in the mid-aughts, and generationally nurture a whole new swath of businesses, entrepreneurial efforts, as well as the ones that survived. So that certification allows for visibility. And what it also really interestingly does is it plugs into an entrepreneur's mind to seek out doing business with or strategic partnership with or collaboration with other like-minded or diverse businesses within New York City and New York State. So we have seen over the course of the 17 years now I think that the Chamber's been around, sort of this growing parallel economy that really we're the only ones that have data or awareness of. Since we're the certifying body, we have the warehouse of data that unfortunately isn't available through like disparity reports that are done for other diverse communities in New York City and New York State. And that allows us to foster those connections to opportunity, but it also allows us to distill an economic voice when we talk to a stakeholder, whether that's someone in government or someone in corporate or a private citizen that really has a passion and an investment in mind.
So walk us through the certification process.
Well, and certification is only for for-profits. So nonprofits don't get certified because there's no ownership structure. So it's got to be owned and operated. But it's a little bit different than the city and the state minority and women business enterprise certifications, in the sense that we have a little bit more of a rigorous status qualifier, because like we get this all the time. Like, I want to get certified as an LGBT business, but how are you going to know that I'm LGBT? Don't send me your Grindr screenshots. We don't need that.
Yeah, please
right?
don't.
There are plenty of other official documents that you can show in addition to like your formation documents and all the stuff that tells us you're a legitimate business that is operating on the ground in New York City or New York State. And we can take those. Those can be doctor's notes. Those can be affidavits from known raging homosexuals within the community, right? We take all the same stuff that most certification does. We just have a slightly more stringent requirement on what are called status qualifier documents. But the faster you get those to us, the faster the process is. And we're the only state that has one person that is solely dedicated to certification. Most states in the US have somebody that is covering an entire region. So we're kind of resourced up to have somebody that is a subject matter expert for you to go directly to. Their name is Gunnar Gardner. They are my right hand, and they are an exceptional guide to the certification process here in New York.
That's cool. He's helped us out a lot as well. What do you think are the biggest misconceptions about LGBTQIA plus professionals and entrepreneurs?
Well, I think there's a lot of them. And I don't know if we have time to go through the list. I think I'll answer this as more of a statement of fact about the challenge. Right? So, and we've talked about this over bourbons and whiskeys in the past when we were very angry when we saw that there wasn't a lot of economic development dollars going into the community. And that is that the LGBTQ plus marketplace for business, or just our economy in general, is wildly non-visible. We're not an apparent minority, right? We're not visible unless we self-identify. I think a lot of folks at institutional levels, when they want to do the research, they don't know where to start. And so we are not in an economic disparity report for the city or the state. We're not being actively counted in any sort of meaningful way beyond what we know from kind of a consumer spend in the economy. And that's been largely done through some really incredible work by our affiliate relationship through the National LGBT Chamber of Commerce that pools that data from its 55 affiliate chambers across the US. But everyone likes to tout this like $1.7 trillion economic input by or output by the LGBT economy. But what does that mean in New York?
1.7 trillion?
Yeah. For the US. But nobody knows what that means on a state-by-state basis, so policy has a hard time getting informed. Corporate engagement has a hard time getting informed because nobody has the data. We have enough now where we can kind of triangulate it. And we can guess conservatively that there should be about 59,000-ish partially or majority-owned LGBT businesses in just the 5 boroughs of New York City alone. If you zoom out to the state, it's about 130,000 businesses. And so are they all there? Are they all kicking on all cylinders? Probably not.
Right.
Because they don't have the same infrastructure from city and state and stakeholders in New York to really make sure that they are generationally set up.
Mm-hmm.
And if they were, though, and you just took like the law of averages and you brought everyone up to the same level as the general population, those businesses would be contributing about $58 billion in GDP to the state.
Wow.
And depending upon where they are in their life cycle and how strong our businesses grow, year over year, generation over generation, that's securing somewhere between 250,000 to 500,000 jobs. The misconception is that we are too hard to count, and we're too hard to be visible, and we're not.
And listening to you, it also makes it feel like the misconception is that we're not as business savvy as other populations or other communities, and that there's this singular thing, right, that we do, and we can't really understand what business looks like. How do we change the messaging that our community, and I think you said 1.7 trillion or 1 point...
Yeah, for the U.S. in terms
for
of...
the U.S. over... But so just nationally...
Sure.
Right? $1.7 trillion is huge for a community.
Right.
And it's never associated with this community.
Right.
So how do you make, especially those elected officials who are hell-bent on demonizing this community, recognize the value that we bring to the table?
Well, it's money.
Right.
It's money.
It's money.
It's money, right? Like at the end of the day, I don't need you to love me, but I need you to know that I generate money.
Respect my dollar.
Right, right. The ability to show that we're generating wealth for our communities, for our cities, municipalities, for our state is really, really important to be able to tell. And it's not just like your standard businesses. I mean, we've got people that are startups in tech to people that have manufacturing businesses that are doing almost $250 million in revenue a year. We have businesses that are just formed last month to businesses that have been around since the early 1900s. In fact, the average lifespan of our businesses in New York is somewhere around 13 years. That is way longer than the average lifespan in the general population of businesses, which is usually around 5 years. So we are stable. We're generating revenue. When we look at things like pride events, that brings in a lot of money to New York City.
Do you think we do ourselves a disservice by not having this discussion? Yes, I want folks to humanize the LGBTQ community, right? But I also, again, want them to recognize and respect what we bring to the table. Do we do ourselves a disservice by not starting or leading with that conversation?
I don't know if, that's a good question. I don't know if it's a chicken or the egg thing here, but I think it's a missed opportunity for sure.
Right.
So, because we have focused as a community for, at least in my lifetime, so heavily on the human piece and the moral compass piece. I think that within the next 5 to 10 years, when we look at the human case, we cannot forget to talk about the business case. And part of that is because we're in a world where we have, through technology and social media, kind of segregated ourselves into little thought bubbles.
Yeah.
And everybody thinks they're right.
Everyone's
got their own semblance of the truth.
Right.
And that doesn't get reconciled without business case, right? So we kind of have to move beyond the human, not just having the human piece, but the business piece. Like I think about the Will and Grace phenom, right?
Right.
Or I think about Pose, right? And you've got these great cultural injections that share real human or slightly exaggerated human stories, right? That affect culture, that affect art, that affect entertainment, that affect language.
Right. Yeah.
But don't tell me that there wasn't money being paid out to a lighting contract, sound boom, union jobs, an entire entertainment industry that came in and had the privilege to commodify ballroom.
Right.
And what did that mean for the industry? And what did that mean for those employed? What did that mean for the nonprofits that may have been beneficiary or partner to it? What did it mean for the households of the talent? And you're talking millions upon millions of dollars.
Right.
And then how does that get reinvested?
Back into the community. I'm glad you introduced ballroom, or you brought ballroom up, right? Because I am a part of the ballroom community. And one of the biggest things that I've said to them is that we have to figure out a way to capitalize on the monetization of ballroom. And I think for a lot of us, ballroom was this activity, it was a means to an end. We never saw it as profitable. What are ways that we now can pivot and recognize that, yes, it's still a means to an end because your creative side can shine in that space, but you should still be making, if Ryan Murphy can come in and capitalize on your lived experience through ballroom or pose, you should be able to do the same thing. What are some actionable things that folks can do to begin monetizing ballroom?
Well, there are a lot of resources to help business owners, or you don't even have to be a business owner, right? So like if you are in ballroom, when you say monetize, I just think that you're creating something sustainable, right? Like you're building wealth, you're preserving space, but you're also making sure that it is valued, right? Beyond just the intrinsic nature of having space, having community, having the ability to be your whole person. But all that comes with currency, right? So, and skills that you can develop into jobs. I mean, event planners, catering, food and beverage, the nightlife industry in New York City, and not saying that ballroom is solely and strictly in the box of nightlife, but I'm just.
But it could be, yeah. We could, for purposes of this discussion, we could do. Just
I'll start there, right? Like that's a 39 billion-ish industry for New York City, I believe, if I remember correctly.
That has died off in some ways. The nightlife in New York City has not what it is, or what I remember it to be.
Well,
so there are certain spaces that don't exist anymore.
And there are new spaces that kind of build up when folks are looking for community and looking for places to congregate. And it's not necessarily like we talk about this a lot. Millennials are the most like alcohol consuming of the generations. It's because I'm stressed.
Right.
But, younger generations are not. But they are looking for ways to still be engaged in community and arts and entertainment and culture.
Right.
And so event production, performance art,
Yeah.
but also, like I said, food and beverage plays a part in it. The associations that could be developing the talent. It could be creating casting agencies, right? And then all of a sudden you're talking about businesses that then, could kind of bleed into mainstream, right? A corporation wants to bring people in for their resource groups. Could come out of ballroom. There should be some money involved because you're providing a good or service. Or, all of a sudden there's a new show that comes out. Casting opportunity, right? And now all of a sudden you're taking skills that you have nurtured and you may not have fully realized from being deeply personal to something you can share through commerce and make it still sustainable, but with a totally new dimension to it. And that is something where community develops industry in a very natural and organic way. Pride does this too, right? Think about all the small businesses, especially like that get their start with like vendor stalls in a festival, right? Somebody that's got a food truck or a new product and they want to try it out. And they find their opportunity by just setting up tchotchkes at a booth at a Pride festival.
Right.
But then how do we nurture those and how do we make them ready as vendors and how do we grow them and scale them and how do we get them into contracts to cater in Class A office suites, or how do we take that product or service and get it into retail or wholesale distributions? But all that comes out of a passion, and a passion to do business or engage in community in however people want to do it. And ballroom can do the exact same thing. Take your passions, your skill sets, your knowledge that you've cultivated, and turn it into a business. Doesn't mean that it stops being ballroom. Doesn't mean that you stop being part of ballroom. It means you get to be a business in ballroom and for the business of ballroom.
So with that said, right, what does personal respect mean, right? And how do you earn it without losing a piece of who you are?
Well, that's a delightfully vague question. Respect to me is it's steeped in trying to find the value of the person across from you, right? And not coming from a place of, oh, well, they got to prove themselves. If I meet someone, I am not interested in testing their mettle or deciding their worth. I want them to tell me it. I want to be receptive to their worth and their sense of value. I want to be invested in that person across from me, whether it's in a personal relationship or a business relationship, whatever it is. I want to know how people see themselves.
Right.
I want them to tell me that. I'm not going to define the person across from me. That's. Am I allowed to swear? That's arrogant as fuck.
Yeah, you can.
Okay, great.
Do you not know me? Of course you can cuss.
It's arrogant as fuck, and I disagree with it immensely. I don't like it when people come to the table and they come with an agenda to put the other person in a box.
Yeah.
Right? I think it is wildly unproductive. I think it is genuinely insincere, and I don't think it makes anything meaningful happen. You might get a transaction out of it.
Right.
But nothing happens after that.
You know, I asked that question because for a long time we've told people to show up as their authentic self.
Yep.
Right? And now, in this climate, it's a little dangerous for some folks to show up as their authentic self because that image is being demonized.
Yep.
And I want folks to recognize that you can still be a part of Ballroom, you can still show up as your authentic self, and you can still make money.
Yep.
Right? And I think for us, that's the driver.
Yep.
But is there space, in your opinion, for folks in our colorful community to show up as their authentic self and still be able to get booked and stay booked, and especially with the attacks against DEI and diverse communies?
I mean, I don't know how deep you want me to drill down.
Drill down, Abe. Okay. Drill down.
I mean, listen, I'm a little gay boy from Idaho originally, right? And I'll tell you, there was, when I grew up, a very different kind of level of non-acceptance that was prevalent. And then I moved from Idaho to Seattle, and I worked for a credit union, and the CFO was a gay man with 2 kids and married, and I was like, in what world does this exist, right? Meanwhile, the friends that I made as a little gaby coming out at 22 at the bar, right? I was losing, friends 1 to 2 a year since I came out to a whole bunch of stuff, and not being able to reconcile who I was as a professional and who I was as a person was really, really tough. And to be able to do that in Seattle blew my mind. And so I got introduced to LGBT Chambers of Commerce. Shout out to GSBA. That's one of the coolest chambers out there. I love them to death. And I got on a boat. I still remember this. I was a teller at this credit union. And I got on a boat with executives from Fortune 100 companies, with government officials, foreign dignitaries, small businesses that were making ice cream on Capitol Hill, and the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, the male nun society, gay male nun society. And you literally, you could, it blew my, how is this even a thing that could exist? And they were all getting on a boat to raise money for scholarships for students to go to college. And how did you get so many different walks of life on a boat to all agree and be invested in? It was the coolest thing ever. So when I came to New York, I put it on my resume. I am a banker, and I'm going to be a banker in LGBT spaces, specifically chambers of commerce. That was a hiring point. Nice. And I say the same thing about certification. A lot of people are scared to get certified and have that be visible.
Yeah.
But guess what? Those people that are reaching out to you chose you.
Right.
They wanted to do business with you because you let them know who you are.
So it's an asset to show folks exactly who you are.
Yep. And if you don't and like, listen, there's always going to be the pain of being authentic because somebody's going to be an asshole, right? Somebody is going to be predatory. Somebody's going to be, abusive or neglectful or manipulative, whether that's in commerce or personal life.
Mm-hmm.
So the difference is when you don't edit yourself, you reduce the number of opportunities for people to lord that over to you when you're already deep in a contract, right? Or in the work or trying to get employed, because these people that you're having conversations with, when they decide to say yes, they know all about you and they value all of you.
I don't think people look at it through that lens, right? That
No.
now I'm in this contract and you've discovered something, or you think you've discovered something that I appear to be hiding,
Yep.
and you try to weaponize it and use it against me. When it comes to our allies, we have a bunch of allies in the community. When it comes to the allies, what is their responsibility to make sure the messaging around LGBTQ businesses are, one, those stories are told, but also that there's this pathway for survival, or at the very least a pathway to access resources?
Strictly business?
Strictly business.
Okay. So I think that the biggest thing that allies can do, and it goes back to your question about respect, is let the person across from you tell you what they're worth, what they do, what their value is, what they bring to the table, and find how to be invested, right? Our good friend Steve Garibell.
Hey, Steve.
Right?
Steve's gonna kill me.
Steve is gonna kill you. I came on first.
Steve's gonna kill me.
Don't edit this out.
Yeah, Steve's gonna kill me.
Steve Garibell, I got on first.
Oh my God.
So, allyship, and in this case, we're talking allyship of a trans-led organization, with folks that were heavily invested, two gay white guys in a bank, right? Letting you tell us what you need, what you want, and then being invested in a sincere way, saying, okay, well, here's resources that we're aware of. Here are people that we are aware of. Here is a community that we are aware of. And we're not going to go and tell you what to do with it, but if you want it, here's an introduction. Here's a volunteer. Here's a grant opportunity. Here's something that we can collaborate on, like own it. And so I think that's the thing that allies, whether inside the community or outside the community, can really do, is listen to what the other person is telling you about what they are, what they do, how they do it, and figure out, okay, am I engaging in this transaction or this commerce with this person, or am I going a different direction? If I can't do that, and I'm extending a network to them.
Right.
And that's the other thing too. There's no zero-sum game with this stuff. So if I can't do business with somebody, that doesn't mean I can't be in business with them. Right? And I can connect them to my community that I know, and that I will openly share, and let them find where they want to be in it, and check in with them, right? And see how things are going. And then that lets me fine-tune the next introduction or the next thought in the process, or how else I can be engaged or invested. And it comes down to something that is so basic and so simple, and I think so human, which is you need to be genuinely, sincerely curious about the other person.
Yeah. The relationship that Destination Tomorrow had with you and Steve and TD Bank was instrumental in getting us to the next level. I don't know many trans-led organizations that have been able to accomplish what we've gone on to accomplish, and it was due in large part to having y'all introduce us to folks and hold our hand through certain parts. I remember when we were doing the PPP loans that oh my God, we stayed up all night just to make sure that everything was done correctly. And then I took it for granted that all of the other organizations were doing something similar with their banker, only to find out that many of them didn't have a relationship with their bank. So they missed out on those opportunities, right? So I'm gonna add, like, when it comes to business, and we'll lump in LGBTQ, but oftentimes the trans community is not a part of those larger discussions.
Oh yeah.
What can we do differently to make sure that our trans community doesn't get left behind when it comes to business?
Well, I mean, kind of the tongue-in-cheek answer here is, like, you're already paying these people.
Yeah.
so they work for you, right? like your banker doesn't have a job without deposits and loans
Right.
and investments, and but also like that goes for an attorney that might have helped you with your business formation or your contracts. That goes again for your accountant who's helping you with your taxes. So tell them the shit that you want to
That you
do,
need, yeah.
right? And I think we all have enough sense, and if we don't, this is something we talk about it in Own It, which is going on right now in its 5th year.
I was going to say, tell folks what Own It is and how they can be a part of it,
So,
just really quickly.
Own It is a business 101 for transgender and gender expansive entrepreneurs, and it runs nationwide. It's a virtual. It's not just another PowerPoint, though there is one of those. But what we do is we provide general business education, but we also plug them in at the end to a free business advisor who's doing pro bono work. We plug them into a local affiliate chamber because they're not all in New York, they're
Right.
across the US. And if they want to, we also get them certified as an LGBT business enterprise through that program. And they also get a mentor
Yeah.
that is a transgender or gender expansive entrepreneur themselves. And so it's virtual, it runs nationwide. We've had vegan ice cream shops in Hawaii, to mechanics in Seattle, to insurance agents in Chicago, to political consultants in New York, and a whole litany of like food and beverage, getaways for trans populations, for like summer retreats, health and wellness, you name it, down in the South. I mean, the industries are just, it's so cool to see the number of ambitions and endeavors that have come through this program. And it's free, thanks to it being powered by, again, TD Bank.
TD
I feel
Bank.
like, is this an advertising plug for my former employer? Do we need to send an invoice after this? No,
We
just
may
kidding.
have to. Right? If you had one piece of advice for our community when it comes to money, power, and respect, what would it be?
Don't demean where you think you are in life when it comes to profession and wealth and even survival,
Right.
right? Everyone is inherently contributing just by being here.
Right.
And by virtue of that, you are a stakeholder in this, in the state or in the U.S. Whoever is watching this or wherever you are in the world, right?
Right.
You are, no matter what you're doing, you are contributing in some way. And even if you think it's totally non-visible, I guarantee you there is a personal and an economic ramification to the betterment of us all that you are here and you're existing. So recognize your worth as essentially a stakeholder in this country. And I think that is something that's really, really critical. And that also means that you are worth being invested in.
Right.
So let people know your worth. Let people know your value. And sometimes you got to be really patient with the process, and it's okay to be frustrated along the way. But find those people that want to invest in you.
I think it's key that you said to understand your worth first, right? Because I think too often, especially within the trans community, we don't value ourselves high enough. We don't value what we bring to the table because for so long we were told that we didn't have any value, right? You don't hear or you don't see images of yourself. So I think it's key to first figure out what you bring to the table. Make sure you bring something to the table, but figure out what you bring to the table and then what it's worth.
Yep.
And then ask for double.
Yep. Yep. And even if you don't get double,
You're gonna fall somewhere.
you're going to find somewhere. I have an entrepreneur who she's going to kill me because I haven't seen her in a hot minute. But she used to call me Uncle Barton and she would literally email me when I was still at the bank. Go, Uncle Barton, I need a loan for my business. I'm like, okay. First of all, don't call me Uncle Barton in the email because somebody's going to audit this.
Yes, you're gonna get me in trouble.
Right. And I'm like, we have no familial relationship, though you are my favorite.
Right.
Favorite in your industry. But she said one of my favorite things in the world, which is, the best no's tell you how to get a yes.
Yep.
So never be afraid to ask for anything, because if somebody's invested in you and they can't do something or it's a no, they're going to tell you how to get to a yes.
Thank you for coming through and for hanging out with me.
You kidding me?
And
Anytime.
But more importantly, thank you for believing in Destination Tomorrow, right? And that dream that we had, that we were going to bring resources and services to LGBTQ folks in the South Bronx, So thanks for taking the trip up to the South Bronx and doing that first financial literacy course.
In my old little polyester suit, sweating my ass off on the 2 train and walking under the overpass to Hunts Point. Yeah.
Walking the.
What was that, the banknote building,
It was still the best thing for me, watching you walk across the Cross Bronx in your suit to get to those kids to make sure you didn't disappoint them.
Yeah.
Right then I knew you were my person, right? Because I knew you were dedicated to community. So I just appreciate you so much. Tell folks where they can find you at. If you have anything coming up, share it with us now. If you got any marching orders with us, or let us know what we need to do to contribute to what it is that you do.
So if you want more information about the Chamber, you can visit our website, www.nglccny.org. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I think I'm the only Barton Jackson in New York State, so I should be pretty easy to find.
Pretty easy to find. Barton Jackson, I appreciate you so much. Thank you for coming to Collateral Damage.
Yes, absolutely.